Bad Boys: Ride or Die is the fourth installment in the long-running Bad Boys franchise, known for its high-octane action and buddy cop dynamics between Will Smith's Mike Lowrey and Martin Lawrence's Marcus Burnett. The latest installment in the Bad Boys franchise, Bad Boys: Ride or Die, has been released after a significant gap since the previous film. This new movie aims to revive the spirit of the earlier Bad Boys films while incorporating contemporary elements into its narrative and action scenes. So the question is, can Ride or Die recapture the magic of the past while injecting fresh energy for today's audiences? First, a quick recap for those who might need it. The Bad Boys franchise follows the exploits of two Miami detectives, Mike Lowrey and Marcus Burnett. Known for their unorthodox methods and penchant for causing massive property damage, these two have been taking down drug lords and criminal masterminds for nearly 3 decades now. The last film, Bad Boys for Life, came out in 2020 and breathed new life into the series after a 17-year hiatus. Now, 4 years later, we're back on the sun-soaked streets of Miami with Ride or Die. The basic premise this time around involves a mysterious new drug flooding the city, a corrupt politician, and an old nemesis out for revenge. Let's start with what works. First and foremost, the chemistry between Smith and Lawrence remains the beating heart of this franchise. Their banter and comedic timing are as sharp as ever, providing much-needed levity between the intense action sequences. It's clear these two still enjoy playing these characters, and their enthusiasm is infectious. Speaking of action, Ride or Die delivers in spades. The set pieces are bigger and more elaborate than ever. A mid-film car chase through downtown Miami is a particular highlight, featuring some genuinely jaw-dropping moments that had me on the edge of my seat. New to the franchise is Anya Taylor-Joy as the film's primary antagonist, Elena Cortez. Taylor-Joy brings a chilling intensity to the role of a cartel boss's daughter out for revenge against Lowrey and Burnett. Her scenes crackle with tension, and she proves to be a worthy adversary for our heroes. Now let's talk about what doesn't work quite as well. While the action and comedy are on point, the plot of Ride or Die feels a bit recycled. We've seen variations of this story in previous Bad Boys films, and there's a sense that the writers are running out of fresh ideas for the franchise. The corrupt politician's subplot in particular feels tacked on and underdeveloped. Additionally, at 2 hours and 15 minutes, the film feels a bit bloated. There are a few subplots that could have been trimmed or cut entirely without losing much. A romantic subplot involving Marcus's daughter feels particularly unnecessary and takes time away from the main story. The film also struggles with tone at times. While the Bad Boys movies have always balanced comedy and action, Ride or Die occasionally veers into darker territory that feels at odds with the franchise's typically lighter tone. A few scenes involving Elena's backstory are genuinely disturbing and might be off-putting to fans expecting the usual Bad Boys fare. That said, these issues don't detract too much from the overall enjoyment of the film. Bad Boys: Ride or Die knows what its audience wants and delivers it in spades. If you're a fan of the franchise, you'll find plenty to love here. One aspect that deserves special mention is the film's use of Miami as a backdrop. The city has always been a character in its own right in the Bad Boys films, and Ride or Die takes full advantage of its vibrant locations. From high-speed chases down Ocean Drive to tense standoffs in the Everglades, the film showcases Miami in all its neon-lit, sun-drenched glory. Another standout element is the film's soundtrack. The Bad Boys movies have always had great music, and Ride or Die continues this tradition. The score by Lorne Balfe perfectly complements the on-screen action, while the soundtrack features a mix of classic hits and new tracks that capture the energy of Miami. The inclusion of a new remix of the iconic Bad Boys theme is sure to get fans hyped. One area where Ride or Die shows improvement over its predecessors is in its treatment of its female characters. While the franchise has been criticized in the past for its portrayal of women, this installment makes strides in giving its female characters more agency and depth. Paula Nunez's Rita, in particular, gets a beefed-up role this time around, proving herself to be just as capable as Mike and Marcus in the field. It's also worth noting that Ride or Die makes some attempts to address current social issues, particularly regarding police brutality and corruption. While these themes aren't explored in great depth, it's refreshing to see the franchise at least acknowledging the complexities of modern law enforcement. From a technical standpoint, Ride or Die is a well-crafted action film. The editing is tight, keeping the pace brisk even during the film's slower moments. The sound design is immersive, with every gunshot, explosion, and car crash feeling impactful. And as mentioned earlier, the practical stunts are impressive, giving the action a weight and realism that CGI often lacks. Now, let's address Will Smith's involvement in the film. Following the controversy surrounding Smith at the 2022 Academy Awards, there was speculation about how it might affect his future projects. While Ride or Die was already in production at the time of the incident, it's clear that the filmmakers made no attempt to minimize Smith's role. He's front and center throughout the film, and his performance shows no signs of being affected by the controversy. In fact, Smith seems more energized in this role than he has in years. There's a spark in his performance that recalls his earlier work, and his chemistry with Lawrence feels reinvigorated. Whether this is a case of art imitating life, or simply Smith recommitting to a character he clearly loves, it results in one of his most engaging performances in recent memory. So where does Bad Boys: Ride or Die stand in the context of the franchise? While it may not reach the heights of the original film, it's a solid entry that proves there's still life in this series. It improves upon Bad Boys for Life in several ways, particularly in its action sequences and overall energy. However, the question remains, how much longer can this franchise continue? While Smith and Lawrence still bring the goods, they're not getting any younger. The physical demands of these roles are significant, and there's only so many times they can play the "we're too old for this" card before it stops being funny and starts being sad. Is it a perfect film? No. The plot is somewhat derivative, and there are pacing issues. But if you're looking for a high-octane action comedy that doesn't take itself too seriously, you could do a lot worse than Bad Boys: Ride or Die. In conclusion, Bad Boys: Ride or Die is a fun, action-packed ride that delivers exactly what fans of the franchise have come to expect. It's not breaking any new ground, but it executes its formula with style and energy. The chemistry between Smith and Lawrence remains the film's greatest asset, and the action sequences are some of the best in the series. That's it for this review. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, what's your favorite Bad Boys movie?